Hello, my name's Christian, and I got to interview Ivy Sly, the creator of hit game YOMI Hustle. YOMI Hustle, if you don't know, can basically be described as 2D Tory Bash, but a lot more flashy, and I've been addicted to it for several months now. But with that out of the way, let's get right into the interview. Before we hop right into it, do you want to introduce yourself or anything for the people at home that will watch this?
Yes, I am Ivy Sly. I made the game Your Only Move is Hustle. It's a turn-based fighting game with stick figures in it. I also made a bunch of other games.
So, the first question that I wanted to ask you is just, in general, how/when did you start game development?
Well, I would say the first time I tried to make a game was in high school, probably around 9 years ago. I would say I started around 2016 or 2015, so I guess about a decade ago. I was basically just copying roguelike tutorials into Python and not really knowing what I was doing. But the first time I actually finished a game was in 2021 when I found Pico 8. And before then, I'd spent a lot of time just trying to make gigantic games that were way too big for me and never getting anything done. And so learning I could just make a smaller game and actually being forced to is sort of what kickstarted, really leaning into the game development thing for me.
What was your inspiration for creating YOMI Hustle? What was your idea behind it?
It's kind of an interesting story. So I played around 2018, 2020, around that period. I was playing a whole lot of Super Smash Bros. Melee. I was going to tournaments. I was living with Melee players, all that stuff. And I was really interested in sort of the little technicalities of the game, and eventually I was loading up these mods and stuff that let you lap stuff out, and in one case playing it frame by frame. And now this is a really crappy way to play Melee, but it was really fun. I would load up this training pack essentially. And it had a little recording feature, and so I'd say, hey, let's just start a recording and play the game frame by frame and see how it's different. And it is actually kind of fun, even though the game's totally not balanced for that. And I would essentially say, okay, I'm going to advance 10 frames now, so lock in your hold the controller in a position. But yeah, I just sort of that idea. And also, I played a whole bunch of Tory Bash as a kid, which is essentially, the same idea. It's a turn-based fighting game.
I was really curious about that. Yeah, I played Tory Bash as a kid a lot too.
Yeah, and the whole prediction system, where you see what you're going to do, that's directly taken from Tory Bash. And so I guess just things sort of, they sort of ended up coalescing into Your Only Move is Hustle.
Where'd you come up with the ideas for the 5 base characters in YOMI Hustle? And on top of that, do you have a favorite of the base characters?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. I'm a robot main, obviously. I
respect that.
I barely
so
play
hard.
anyone else in pubs. Yeah, he's my favorite. But I don't know. I like them all. I made them all. I think Wizard's probably the most interesting. And Mutant. I think I like his whole vibe. I like his weird stuff. I don't know. I like them all. Cowboy's crazy too, and Ninja, even being kind of the most vanilla character, also has a bunch of weird stuff. So I like them all. Mm-hmm. But I mean, to answer your first question, they're pretty generic. I mean, sort of on purpose. I wanted to make them more like archetypes. Ninja was originally just, his shuriken was a fireball. He was just fighting game character. And I was like, okay, what's one step removed from that? What's one step more interesting? And so Ninja became Ninja. I gave him the shuriken and the nunchucks, and it sort of went from there. And Cowboy, I guess is sort of the weirdest one because he's got a sword, but I just thought it was kind of natural. Like I'd been playing a bunch of Devil May Cry, and like those characters are basically all like crazy cowboys, like like a bunch of his moves were taken straight from like Nero and Virgil. Like he's just like a cool guy, and cowboys are sort of in film. They're sort of equivalent to the samurai and the the typical samurai story. So yeah, I don't know. It's I'm not the only person who's done it too. They're the cowboy samurai has existed in lots of places. But yeah, I mean, for the remaining three, it's just like what isn't there that would fit there. Like there was no like they're all sort of like genre characters, and so wizard is sort of represents like the fantasy space, and robot sort of sci-fi, and mutants kind of like also sci-fi, kind of like a monster movie character. You know what I mean?
On the topic of characters, if you don't want to say anything about this and you want me to cut this out, that's fine. Just let me know ahead of time. Do you have any updates at all about the final character to be added to YOMI Hustle?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's been a while since I've worked on the game, and I do want to go back to it. But working on your only move this hustle has definitely been a very stressful thing for me. In the past, especially like I was working on it for about 2.5 years. And there's still some stuff, like there's still a patch that I want to finish up. But I do have an answer. The final character was going to be, and might still be...
Hello, everyone. Jump cut just happened. Super surprising. You see, my power went off. It was really cool in the middle of that last question. So we're gonna just restart from there. It's 3 days later. That's about it. So are there any updates on the final character to be added to YOMI Hustle?
Right, yes. Well, so I do plan on adding another character eventually. And some people might know that this character is going to be the alien. Sort of I was thinking, this would be the last character. Because there's one more archetype that I think isn't in the game that could be, and that would be the sort of summoner archetype. Like I would think of like Jacko, or that one Killer Instinct character, I forget his name. But like sort of a wimpy character on his own that kind of wants to spawn a bunch of minions or what have you, and sort of indirectly act through those, like sort of control them, but they've kind of got their own AI. That's the plan. But I think I said earlier, in this interview, that obviously progress has been very slow. I haven't actually pushed an update in months. But I don't consider the game like dead or anything like that. I do plan on adding more content and fixing some stuff, and eventually, it might take a while, but I want to come back to it and add the final character.
So when you talk about a summoner, just curious if part of you has taken any inspiration from any modded characters, when you come to like look at the design of making another character, because there's so many modded characters, and quite a few that I know of that would kind of fit like a summoning archetype if like adjusted with properly.
Well, when it comes to modded characters, and excuse me, because it has been a little while since I've played, but the main thing I notice about the modded characters is that aesthetically they are just miles ahead of anything that I've done. And so most of the inspiration is probably going to be like the sort of like flashiness, like cool aspect of modded characters. But I think generally speaking, the modding community has a sort of different idea of like what, like where they want to take character design in terms of like kit design, like what they actually do.
Yeah.
And so, here and there I extract some ideas. Like Mutant definitely took a lot of cues from modded kits. And so I would say Mutant is more of like the vanilla modded character. And this next one is going to be something that I think really, I mean, I haven't been paying close attention, so maybe people have done this, but I think, the sort of summoner archetype is something that could ideally I would open it up to be more feasible by modders by adding it myself in the game.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, on the topic already, do you have a favorite modded character? Because of just how many mods there are out there.
I definitely have played a few. Mainly I play against them, because I like playing, I like playing my characters. They're sort of my own modded characters.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Moonwalker is a classic. That's probably the first one I played where I was like, oh, this is like... People can do crazy stuff with this game that I've never seen before. I like these sort of novel concepts, like the AI, the goon opponent. I think that's awesome. Something I'd never even considered. I saw the hacker character that sadly people they disabled the... Like, you could run any GD script code through it, and I think that's just so fucking awesome. But of course, there's a security risk, so they don't allow it online. Too bad. But I love that sort of stuff. I think that's great. But I haven't really seen recent ones so much. I saw, I think on the subreddit, like a few months ago, it was either subreddit or Twitter. Like there's a character that like stopped time and like had like cutscenes and stuff, and it's just like all sorts of crazy, just madness. And so, yeah, I don't know if I could say that I have a favorite, but I really love just seeing individual concepts that people come up with that are really, really novel and interesting.
Was the modding community something you had like in mind whenever you were developing the game at all? Because of how it's genuinely one of the largest modding communities I've ever seen in a game before. So,
well, I definitely didn't think it was even possible. And in fact, people asked for mod support, and I said, no, it's never happening. And eventually, a few people came to me and said, hey, we just made a mod loader. Could you just put it in the game? And that sort of opened up that whole can of worms. So no, it was totally the community's doing. And I think that's really, really crazy and awesome.
YOMI Hustle has done very well.
Yeah.
So how has the success of YOMI Hustle affected you on a personal level as a developer, or just a person in general?
Well, obviously, like financially, it's I have some security now. When I was making the game, I was living on disability income, pretty much like living below the poverty line. And now I it's very different, and I have a whole sort of different set of things to think about with regard to finances. But more interestingly, I think the way it affects... Actually, I would say I've been making it a sort of mission to not have it affect like my creative output too much. And the current game that I'm working on, Evil Egg, you can Google that, Evil Egg on Steam. It's going to be free, and this has been a really deliberate decision, because with Your Only Move is Hustle, that was also going to be free. And it was only after people pretty much begged me to sell it that I guess I capitulated and said, okay, $5, I'll put it up for $5. And while obviously that has had like an enormous effect on my life in a positive way, there's also been a lot of anxieties about it, a lot of like negative aspects of it, as someone who I consider myself, an artist, right? And so when I'm making another video game, I don't like having the expectations, and I've learned this now. I don't like having all of the expectations of selling a video game. I don't like, I have to ensure I guess, some level of quality, but also like I can't have it be too like subversive or frustrating or anything. You know, I like if I'm selling a game, I have to sort of be a bit of a people pleaser, which you know, I I have a compulsion to do, but as an artist, I don't want to be doing. You know, I want to make stuff that is true to myself as much as possible, even if it's like going to be frustrating for the people playing it. I want to make something that is as true to my own vision as I can, you know, and please myself the most. I think that's sort of the primary goal of making art in the first place.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about it in that light of feeling like it's affecting your ability to be creative. That's an interesting viewpoint.
Yeah, once you make art into a business, it becomes business. You know, it's no longer just like something fun to do. It things get vastly complicated. Even in my situation where I'm not working with a publisher, you know, I'm doing everything by myself in like the simplest way possible, and it still is complicated. And so that's the sort of thing I want to avoid in the future. And I'm thankful for your Only Moves Hustle success because I'm more enabled to do that. You know, I wish more people had that opportunity to be able to just make what they want.
Well, you mentioned it a bit earlier. You're working on Evil Egg.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions was, what are you currently working on game development wise, if anything at all? Do you want to tell if there's how much you can talk about exactly what Evil Egg is?
Yes, Evil Egg is it's a twin stick shooter. It's a sort of classic arcade inspired twin stick shooter that harkens to, you know, Robotron, Smash TV, you know, all these super old school arcade games. It's got some roguelike elements, but it's a pure like score attack arcade game, I think, at its heart. And it's, you know, man, I'm doing a terrible job pitching it, and that's something I'm still working on. Is the pitch for this game? But it's got a really unique visual style. It's a very like psychedelic, sort of surreal and kind of like haunting game. That's I'm sort of inspired by those arcade classics like Robotron or Berserk, where those games are like scary, you know, and they don't really intend to be, but there's a certain atmosphere of these super old arcade games where they're very like empty, and the sound design is very abstract, and the sprites are very abstract, and it feels very dreamlike. And that's what Evil Egg is. It's a dreamlike, hardcore '80s arcade game, and it should be out sometime this year for free.
Honestly, finally, what advice would you have to give any other upcoming indie game developers, if you had anything to give at all, advice-wise?
I think the most important thing is to you have to do what you want, and the more you give up, you know, the more you hurt yourself to make something that isn't what you want. I think the farther away you're getting from, you know, enrichment, like self-fulfillment. I think I would suggest that no one go into this expecting to make money, and if your goal is to make money, then you should do something else. But if you love game development, then never compromise and make what you want. I think that's the biggest thing.
All right. So to finally wrap everything up, do you want to go ahead and tell everyone where they can find more information about you in places that they can just find you at in general, to just kind of know where to send people?
Yeah. My website is ivysly.com. You can find me on Blue Sky at ivysly.com. Those are the main places. You know, again, Evil Egg, newest game, so I'm mostly posting about that, and you can find that on Steam. But yeah, everything else you'll want to find is on ivysly.com.
All right, awesome. Thank you again for coming on and
thank you
doing
for having me.
this interview with me. Yeah. But with that, that's about it. It's been an honor, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Later.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you did, you should totally subscribe as it helps out the channel a lot. If you have any suggestions on who you'd like to see me interview next, just let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, that's about it. It's been an honor, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.